today I am going to talk about diabetes mellitus. What is diabetes? First of all, diabetes is a group of metabolic disorder characterized by abnormal fuel metabolism which presents mostly as hyperglycemia and dyslipidemia. It is due to defects in insulin secretion or action, or most commonly both action or secretion. It is a serious chronic disease without a cure which is associated with significant morbidity and mortality. Why we are calling it is an abnormal fuel metabolism? Because instead of glucose metabolism, there is increased degradation of glycogen, protein and lipids. Why it is important? It is a chronic, diabetes leads to chronic hyperglycemia and associated metabolic deregulation which causes secondary damage in multiple organ systems. Most commonly affected organs are kidneys, eyes, nerves and blood vessels, which is the leading cause of end-stage renal disease. ठीक है, तो diabetes is a leading cause of end-stage renal disease, adult onset blindness and non-traumatic lower extremity amputation. Now coming to the epidemiology, WHO estimates that 422 million people suffer from diabetes worldwide, and the largest contributor to the world's diabetic load is India and China. And the sedentary lifestyles and poor eating habits when diabetes and obesity occurs simultaneously, it is called diabesity epidemic. Okay? Lack of physical activity and junk food causes diabetes and obesity in younger age also, which we also called as diabesity. Previously it was a disease of older age, but now due to lack of physical activity and junk food in the children, it is also common in children also. Now when we call a person diabetic, normal blood glucose levels are usually 70 to 120 mg per dl, but according to WHO, if any of the three criteria is fulfilled, then it is called diabetic. Suppose a fasting plasma glucose level is greater than or equal to 126 mg per dl, or a random plasma glucose concentration of greater than or equal to 200 mg per dl with classical signs of hyperglycemia, or after 75 gram of glucose load, if the glucose concentration is above 200 mg per dl or equal to 200 mg per dl, which we also called as oral glucose tolerance test, or if the glycated hemoglobin level is greater than or equal to 6.5%. If any of these criteria is present, then we can diagnose patient as diabetic. But one term is also there, that is pre-diabetes, which is also called as impaired glucose tolerance. Pre-diabetes is defined as elevated blood sugar level that does not reach the criteria which is essential for the diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. It is estimated that 1/4 of the pre-diabetic patients will develop diabetes over the next 5 years if it is associated with risk factors like obesity and family history. Pre-diabetes, in any of the three criteria, one or two criteria should be fulfilled before we label the patient as a pre-diabetic. Fasting plasma glucose level should be between 100 and 125 mg per dl, which is also called as impaired fasting glucose. OGTT values should be between 140 and 190 mg per dl, which we also term as impaired glucose tolerant, and glycated hemoglobin level should be between 5.7% and 6.4%, and these are considered to have impaired glucose tolerance test and are known as pre-diabetes. Now coming to the classification of diabetes, there are two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease, and it leads to beta cell destruction, which leads to absolute insulin deficiency. It means there will be no insulin present in the blood. It can be due to immune mediated or idiopathic. And the type 2 diabetes, it is a combination of insulin resistance and dysfunction of beta cells it can be due to many factors. It can be due to genetic defects of beta cell dysfunction, due to some endocrinopathies, due to some infections, due to some genetic disorder, etc. But if it is genetic defects of beta cell dysfunction is due to the following defect in the following genes, which we also called as maturity onset diabetes of the young, which can be due to mutation in the HNF4 alpha gene, or due to glucokinase gene, or due to hepatocyte nucleofactor 1 alpha gene, or due to pancreatic and duodenal homeobox 1 gene, or due to nucleofactor 1 beta gene, or due to neurogenic differentiation factor 1 gene. Maternally inherited diabetes and deafness is due to mutation in the mitochondrial DNA, and it can also be due to defect in pro-insulin conversion or due to insulin gene mutations. In type 2 diabetes, these are also the subtypes or causes. It can be due to genetic defects in insulin action. It can be due to exocrine pancreatic defect, which is also called as type 3C diabetes. It can be due to chronic pancreatitis, neoplasia, cystic fibrosis, or pancreatectomy. And it can also be due to some infections like some viral infection like cytomegalovirus, Coxsackie B virus, or congenital rubella. Some endocrinopathies also leads to diabetes. It can be due to acromegaly, Cushing syndrome, hyperthyroidism, or pheochromocytoma. Some drugs also leads to diabetes like glucocorticoids, thyroid hormone, etc. Genetic syndromes associated with diabetes are Down syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, and Turner syndrome. And gestational diabetes mellitus is also present. It means the fetus acquires diabetes from a mother. Now coming to type 1 diabetes. It accounts for 5 to 10% of the cases. It is the most common subtype diagnosed in patients less than 20 years. It refers to cell-mediated autoimmune destruction of pancreatic beta islet cells. Etiology is autoimmune and it leads to absolute insulin deficiency, means no insulin will be present. In this there is idiopathic destruction of, if suppose there is destruction of beta islet cells but there is no evidence of autoimmunity, then also we classify the patient under type 1 diabetes. And the most common complication in type 1 diabetic patient is diabetic ketoacidosis, and the patient of type 1 diabetes require insulin for survival. Now coming to type 2 diabetes, it is most common and it accounts for 90 to 95% of the cases, and it is more common in obese patients. And in this there is insulin resistance occur, and this result in impaired insulin mediated glucose uptake in the peripheral tissue. Mainly the tissues affected are muscle and fat cells, and there is incomplete suppression of hepatic glucose output and impaired triglyceride uptake by fat. These are some of the major risk factors for type 2 diabetes. If the patient has family history, or he is obese, or he is physically inactive, or he was diagnosed previously with impaired fasting glucose or impaired glucose tolerance, or he has history of gestational diabetes or delivery of baby heavier than 4 kg, or the patient is hypertensive or having HDL level less or higher triglyceride level, or the patient is suffering from polycystic ovarian disease or acanthosis nigricans. This is a table showing difference between type 1 and type 2. As you can see, type 1 diabetes is more common in childhood and adolescence. Type 2 diabetes is more common in adults, and type 1 diabetic patient is usually normal in weight, whereas type 2 diabetic patients are obese. In type 1 diabetes there is progressive decrease in insulin level, whereas in type 2 diabetes in the early stage there is increase in blood insulin level, but afterwards there is normal or decrease in insulin levels. In type 1 diabetes there will be circulating islets autoantibodies will be present, as it is an autoimmune disorder, whereas in type 2 diabetes no islet autoantibodies will be present. The most common complication in type 1 diabetes is diabetic ketoacidosis, and in type 2 diabetes it is non-ketotic hyperosmolar coma. Type 1 diabetic is associated with MHC class 2 genes and CTLA4 and PTPN2. HLA, DR3, DR4 associated with DQT are major contributing genes located. And type 2 diabetes, there is no HLA linkage. And pathology, insulitis is present in type 1 diabetes, and there will be beta cell depletion and islet atrophy. Whereas in type 2 diabetes, no insulitis, whereas we can see amyloid deposition in islet cells, and there will be mild B cell depletion. And one thing I want to say, type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disorder, so there is a failure in self tolerance of T cell towards the beta cell antigens in type 1 diabetes, whereas in type 2 diabetes there is insulin resistance and there is failure of compensation by beta cells towards insulin resistance. Now coming to the hemostasis of glucose, it is regulated by three processes. Number one is the glucose production in the liver, second one is the glucose uptake and utilization by the peripheral tissues, but the main organ is skeletal muscle, and the third one is the action of insulin and its counter-regulatory hormone, that is glucagon, on glucose uptake and metabolism. Suppose during fasting state, when there is hypoglycemia, there will be less secretion of insulin and increased secretion of glucagon, which leads to breakdown of glycogen, and then the glucose level will be maintained. But after meal, as there will be more glucose, so more insulin will be secreted, decreased glucagon will be secreted, and it will lead to glucose uptake and utilization by peripheral tissues, and the main organ is skeletal muscle. So skeletal muscle is a major insulin responsive site for postprandial glucose utilization. So metabolic function of insulin is to increase rate of glucose transport into certain cells in the body. This is a picture which showing which I told you before. As you can see, normal blood glucose level is 90 to 100 mg per dl, and as the stimulus, as there is increase after meal, there is increase in blood glucose level, insulin is secreted, and this glucose will be utilized by the tissues, and the normal glucose level returns. Whereas during fasting, there is decreased glucose level, so glucagon will be released and it will act on liver, and it will lead to glycogenolysis, and the glucose level returns to normal. Now coming to regulation of insulin release. Pancreatic beta cells produce precursor protein of insulin. This protein cleaved in Golgi complex into mature hormone and C-peptide. Both insulin and C-peptide are stored in secretory granules, and glucose is the most important stimulus for insulin synthesis and release. Increased blood glucose results in glucose uptake into beta cells through glucose transporter and membrane of beta cells express ATP sensitive K+ channel. Metabolism of glucose generates ATP, which inhibits activity of ATP sensitive K+ channel, which leads to membrane depolarization and influx of calcium, and increased intracellular calcium stimulates secretion of insulin from stored hormone within the beta cell granules. As you can see, after meal, glucose is increased in the blood, and through glucose transporter it goes inside the pancreatic beta cell, where it is metabolized and ATP is generated, and this ATP will act on K+ channel, and it will closes this potassium channel, and this leads to membrane depolarization, and this leads to opening of the calcium channel, and there is influx of the calcium, and this calcium will act on these secretory granules which is containing insulin. They will release the insulin in the blood. Now coming to the function of the insulin. Principal function of insulin is to increase glucose transport to cells. It provides major source of energy for biosynthesis of lipids, nucleotides and amino acids. Glucose in muscle is stored as glycogen or oxidized to generate ATP. Glucose in adipose tissue used as a substrate for lipid synthesis, which is stored as triglycerides. Anabolic effect of insulin are increased synthesis and decreased degradation of glycogen, lipid and proteins. Insulin has several mitogenic functions like DNA synthesis, stimulation of their growth and differentiation. As you can see in this picture, as I told you, insulin is an anabolic hormone. It leads to increased glucose uptake in the adipose tissue and increased lipogenesis, means more lipid will be synthesized and decrease. This is a pictorial diagram. This is a pictorial diagram showing metabolic action of insulin. One thing I want to tell you that in brain no insulin is required for glucose uptake. So insulin basically acts on three tissues: adipose tissue, striated muscle and the liver. In the adipose tissue, it leads to increased glucose uptake and increased lipogenesis and decreased lipolysis, means there is decreased degradation of lipid and increased production of lipid. Whereas in striated muscle, it leads to increased glucose uptake, increased glycogen synthesis and increased protein synthesis. Okay? So it is, as it is an anabolic steroid hormone, that's why it leads to increase in the synthesis, not degradation. And in the liver, it leads to decreased gluconeogenesis, means an increased glycogen synthesis and increased lipogenesis, means it leads to increased secretion, increased synthesis of lipid, increased synthesis of glycogen and decreased degradation of glycogen. In the next class, I will tell you about pathogenesis of type 1 and type 2 diabetes.